home. And so I'm now kind of living in my mom's basement at my age, which is kind of ridiculous, but it's
Mhm.
it's all to take care of the older parents. And my mom was doing some stuff in the room next to this, and I made her stop so you can hear me better.
Okay.
Okay, so
You're not
what
with Quimbley anymore, any longer.
Quimbley, yes. Okay, so we split with Quimbley, and they kept my Sandy Petersen. We offered them my Sandy Petersen's Cthulhu Mythos stuff for Dungeons and Dragons, so they kept that and are selling that. And we have everything else. We have on our website, which is Petersengames.com, and you can
Okay.
purchase Cthulhu Wars, Planet Apocalypse, um, Evil High Priest. All of our stuff is available there. I also, as long as I'm talking about that, I have a Patreon at Sandy of Cthulhu, which offers game things, essays, and STLs for printing out figures
Oh.
of various bizarre creatures. you know, I have
I imagine.
Cthulhu, things like that. So I have a little Patreon, and I have a pretty prominent presence on YouTube and X, also as Sandy of Cthulhu. Um, so I'm still around, still selling games, still working on producing new games, and active even in my old age, I guess.
Can we talk a little more about hyperspace?
Yes, I'd love to talk more about hyperspace.
Oh,
This
here
is
it
my
is.
newest game. The camera's showing it backwards. I guess it
Yes,
flips
yes,
it.
yes, yes. It's okay. It's okay.
But this is hyperspace. It is a tabletop board game. If you get there's one expansion which it lets you go up to 6 players. So up to 6 players, it is a competitive, non-symmetrical strategy game, which lasts from 1.5 to 2 hours. Every faction are bizarre aliens that do different things, and it's not specifically Lovecraftian, but Lovecraft's monsters are actually aliens. So there are some Lovecraft creatures in it. For example, one of the aliens you get in the expansion are Cthulhu Starspawn, and their
Oh,
super ship is the Cthulhu. That they
yeah,
can fly
yeah,
around.
yeah.
And then the main game has the fungi from Yuggoth, from Lovecraft's story, The Whisperer in Darkness, is one of the, and they can fly through space. They don't need spaceships. So so that's hyperspace. It's pretty fun. I think one of the things I'm most proud of in it is that most turn-based games have a very strict structure where first there's like the gather power phase or whatever, and then there's movement, and then there's action, and then there's you add up your points, and then you go to the next player. But hyperspace doesn't have that. When it's your turn, you can do 3 actions, and you can do any actions. You can produce, you can move, you can combat. If you need more resources, produce 3 times in a row. If you need more troops, um, build them. But you can do it in any order. So you have to pick which 3 things. So um, there's no cleanup phase at the end of the turn. It's just everyone doing their 3 things and racing around the board, and it's a very loose and open game, which I
Very
think is
interesting. Very interesting.
fun. I
And
also doing role playing stuff
mm,
because I am once more have a deal with Chaosium where I can do actual Call of Cthulhu adventures. And the first one's not out yet. Hoping to get it out this year though. It's called Big C, and it's in modern times, and it's about a drug selling group that is connected to deep ones. But
oh,
it's a full campaign. It's going to be a hardback book, a couple hundred pages long, with all kinds of adventures and entanglements. And the climax is in an unfinished super collider tunnel complex, with terrible horrors within. So
I imagine. I imagine. And um, I I I have read about Terror Path.
yes,
Um,
Terror Pass. So Terrapass is a tabletop board game that is completely finished. It's balanced, it's play tested, it has all the illustrations. We're just waiting to put the money into it to get it published.
Okay.
It
What's
is
the
a
difference between Terror Path and Arkham Horror, for example?
Okay. So the difference in Terrapass and Arkham Horror is kind of they're both cooperative games, right? However, our a game of Arkham Horror, I mean, you can put things in to make it different, but basically all the games of Arkham Horror have kind of the same overall plan to them. You're in Arkham, you have to go around and close the gates that keep
Yes,
popping up.
yes.
You go through them. I mean, I know Arkham Horror really well since I actually worked on the first edition back at Chaosium, right? Richard Lanius did a bang up job. So you're going around, closing the gates, doing things, getting back, and then finally at the end of the game, you either fight the big monster or you've closed enough gates and the game ends. Okay. But it's all the same kind of flow. There's individual difference, but the same kind of flow. In Terrapass, each individual scenario is completely different. Now we have multiple maps of the game, not just one map. And what happens? You start the game, and on the map, you figure out your scenario, and then you lay cards on every area of the whole map, every room, or if it's a room, or every whatever it is. It might be an open area, could be in a cave. You lay the card face down, then when you go into the card, you flip it over, and you see what it does. So you don't know what the scenario is going to be. In fact, when you start a scenario of Terrapass, you don't know how to win that scenario. You have to figure it out while you're playing the game. And sometimes you're getting cards and you're piecing them together and making to make a big occult symbol. Sometimes you're just trying to get to the end and back again. Sometimes you're trying to escape. Like there's one where you're in a forest fire and you're trying to get out of the forest as it burns down around you, and there's fire vampires floating through the air and all kinds of things. So every scenario was very, very precisely designed to do something unusual. It could be an alien invasion. It could be an uprising from below. One of them has actual Cthulhu attacking the lighthouse island you're on, and Cthulhu is too big to be a card, so he's like taking over parts of the island as he expands. Now, a disadvantage of Terrapass compared to Arkham Horror is that although you can obviously play a scenario more than once you've played a scenario, then you kind of know how it goes, and so you don't really have a need to replay it. But the scenarios do take like a whole evening to run through, and you get multiple of them in the package. So there's that. It's also cheaper than Arkham Horror. So,
good news.
but you play the game more. You play each scenario, and then when you finish them, we provide more scenarios at a fairly inexpensive price, so you can get more scenarios and
Okay.
keep playing the game. But that's Terrapass. Also, here's a cool thing about Terrapass. You don't take turns when you play.
Oh.
All the players do their thing at the same time. Usually they discuss it first, and then you all just go and do things.
Okay.
So you don't have to wait for someone else.
A very big difference.
Yes.
From Arkham Horror. I have Arkham Horror, the first board game with all the expansion. I have Eldritch Horror. I have Arkham Horror, the card game with all the expansion. So I will be more than happy to get even.
Well, it feels very, very different from Arkham. It feels very different from Arkham Horror. There's not a random group. Like Arkham Horror, you can see any monster, which is fine. That's how they work. In Terrapass, it's like the cards might be a monster, and you don't know what the monsters are going to be when you go into it. You don't know how to win. You have to figure it out. It's always a mystery, and that feels like an actual mystery that you're figuring out. And you have to work out, we have to go down that hall now. So it's I'd love to play it with you sometime. I actually do have a version I can play online, so maybe we can set something up with you and some friends if you want.
Yes, absolutely.
Now the version online that I have doesn't have all the art.
Of course.
It's just a simple version. But
when can we expect it?
This year.
This year, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have plastic figures. Uh, so it shouldn't be too difficult to get it printed up. It's cardboard. I mean, there's plastic clips. The characters are cardboard standees that fit into
Standees.
clips.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Uh, and you have actual characters, and you advance. Your character advances during play.
And I have read that Cthulhu Wars Standard Edition also have standees in the
That's Cthulhu Wars Duel. Yeah, it has.
Cthulhu
Oh yeah,
Wars
the
Duel.
standard edition is not out yet, but yeah, the Cthulhu Wars when the Cthulhu Wars Standard Edition comes out, it will also have standees to make it more
Okay.
affordable. But we will still keep the awesome Cthulhu Wars with all the figures, which is available right now. Now we have a game. We have a version called Cthulhu Wars Duel, which is a two-player game of Cthulhu Wars. It has its own map. It has just like the basic one has Cthulhu versus the Black Goat. And then we have Cthulhu Wars Extinction Duel, which has the Sleeper and Windwalker as the two factions and their own map. And they're both complete games, but you can mix and match maps and factions between them. But it's only for two players, and
Only
they're
for two
pretty
players.
inexpensive. They're like $25. So if you need a Cthulhu Wars like a travel version to play with a friend,
Yes.
then it's a really good choice.
I think without the miniatures, no? That is
There's no
the
miniatures in it. It just has standees. That's
that's
why it's $25.
oh, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I mean the
But
full Cthulhu
sometimes
Wars
it's good
experience.
even to play without miniatures, only for the joy
Yes,
of
yes.
playing the game.
There's reviews of it, and the reviewers love it, and they say obviously there's the real Cthulhu Wars. The miniatures are pretty cool. They're great miniatures,
Yeah,
and of course you can play with more than one other person. You can play with up to 12 now. Um, but so there's those advantages of the real Cthulhu Wars, but sometimes you don't need the full Cthulhu Wars just to have a good time with a friend.
of course, yes. And let's talk about Return to Planet Apocalypse.
Okay, Return to Planet Apocalypse is we're trying to get that produced. We fell on hard times with COVID. Um,
Yeah,
and what
of course.
happened is that COVID hit and China went into lockdown. And
Mm,
as you may know, most games today are produced in China. Certainly, all games that have plastic figures are made in China.
yeah.
Because to make the plastic figures, what you need is a company that has high tech and low labor costs. And like Italy
China
has
is the
high
best
tech, but it
option.
has high labor costs. Uh, Mexico has low labor costs but low tech. So so you just have to find the right. Anyway, so probably India or Singapore or someone could eventually do it as well as China, but they haven't done it yet. So anyway, so China's on lockdown. Everyone, and it happened right after the Chinese New Year. So all the Chinese workers were in their home provinces they'd gone home to visit for the New Year. So they were all stuck at home. Okay. And then we kept our games sold well during COVID. So we sold them and we sold it and then we sold out. And we couldn't produce more games. And we had a staff of like 15 people. And we said, well, at any moment, COVID's going to lift and they're going to let us sell our games again. So we kept our staff producing. Okay. And they kept producing and they kept producing. And finally, we just hit a wall. We said, we're out of money. We have no game. Our games, we don't have any games to sell. Uh, our company is out of cash. And we basically almost shut down. That's when we went to Quimbly's. Um, and Quimbly's managed to produce Hyperspace and the final onslaught of Cthulhu Wars, okay, for us.
Okay.
And so we have those. So we have games in stock, but we're trying to reestablish ourselves. And we also have a ton of games. We have like 17 game products that we completed while our company was running out of money. And we have all those ready to go, like Terror Pass and Big C and all these. But we're really trying to get back on our feet. Um, so any help, so if you go to our website, petersengames.com, that will be a big help to us. And we do have a
Okay.
we do have a warehouse in Europe shipping. It's actually in Greece.
And is there
You don't have to
anything?
pay delivery costs from America
Okay.
to Europe.
Yes, yes. It's that's very useful. And is there anything you haven't announced yet that you can tell us, in private?
Sure. I got a game called Death Dealer. This is another multiplayer strategy game, and the unique feature of Death Dealer is that I'm famous for making non-symmetrical strategy games where the different factions are very different. I don't know if you've played Cthulhu Wars, but if you play Cthulhu, a strategy that works for Cthulhu will not work for the Crawling Chaos, and vice versa. They just feel differently. So, but in Death Dealer, you design your own faction while you're playing
Uh-huh.
and build it up so that your factions by the end of the game are very different, but you start off kind of similar, and then you're designing yourself to go whatever path you choose. So that's, I think, a unique, interesting feature.
And what's the craziest thing you're working on?
Well, I'm working on a game about Dracula. And in the Dracula game, what happens is that you start in Dracula's castle, and then you go to England, and then you go back to Dracula's castle when you're chasing Dracula back home. But the thing that's interesting in it
Like the
is
story,
that,
like
like the story, right? So one of the players is Dracula, okay, and one of the players is Van Helsing, the Dracula enemy. And Van Helsing is always a vampire hunter, and Dracula is always a vampire. All the other players can switch teams back and forth. They can be like Dracula can turn one into one of his servants,
Valachi,
right?
if I remember
Yeah,
well.
exactly. Or even a vampire eventually, and then the Van Helsing could try to turn them back, right? Or stake them out if they're a vampire. Then they get a new character. But the thing is, the way you win the game is you're earning these trophies. Okay, you get trophies like Dracula can get trophies for turning someone into the dark side, and the good guys can get trophies for putting white roses in holy water in areas to keep Dracula out of them, and all this. So, but they can't get. But you get points for having the most trophies in each category. So if you're one of the people that aren't Dracula or Van Helsing, switching sides lets you get more trophies, so you can beat Van Helsing or Dracula. So you have to so basically the other players are like, well, do I want to be on Dracula's side or Van Helsing? And you're like, well, almost everyone else on Van Helsing's side now. I want to go and join Dracula because that'll give me more opportunities because there'll be more targets. There's fewer bad guys. And everyone's a vampire. I want to go back to Van Helsing. So the players are all switching sides. Meanwhile, Dracula and Van Helsing are trying to keep people on their side. But you don't win as a group, as a team. You win individually. So
getting the more trophies you have, okay.
Exactly. So even if you're all on the same side hunting Dracula, you're not necessarily acting in each other's interests. So I think that is an interesting game concept that I've got, and we've been playing that pretty extensively. At one time, we actually had the license from Hammer Horror to use Christopher Lee's art, but when the Troubles came, that license lapsed. Right? We can probably get it back, but even if we can't, it's not, Dracula is Dracula. But that's an interesting game concept.
I've heard about a Sandy Petersen Necronomicon. Is it real?
Sandy Petersen Necronomicon.
No.
Yes, I in a sense, I am trying to put together a number of books that together would be a Necronomicon. One of the projects I'm working on, for example, is the Book of the Shambler. I got the Book of the Hunting Horror, the Book of the Chocho. And what these books would be, they'd be 50 to 90 pages long, and the first half of the book would have background information and secrets about whatever the creature in the game was, a dimensional shambler, for example. Then the last half of the book would be adventures with them.
Okay.
So there's that. Oh, one more thing that's kind of exciting. So the hyperspace universe that I have for the hyperspace game that you saw is very extensive background. And I've actually got a tactical space combat game based on it, where you have a bridge display and a spaceship on a map that you're moving around shooting the other spaceships. And I've got that for all the different aliens. And I'm working on extensively, this will not be out this year, but I'm working on a role-playing game set in the universe. So it's a Sandy Petersen science fiction role-playing game set in the future after Cthulhu has taken over Earth and the humans have had to flee into space.
Oh,
Now,
fantastic.
not all the monsters in it are Cthulhu monsters. There's lots of other aliens, but the Cthulhu creatures are also there, and they're always bad. So it's science fiction. Humanity is rare and few, because the Earth was conquered in the Cthulhu Wars. But we're out there, and so basically your game is you are the crew of a starship, and you're out trying to find new homes for humanity, make deals with friendly aliens, avoid the hostile ones, and go on adventures. So
Okay. Okay, that was very interesting. But now we'd like to talk about the genesis of
sure, the
our
olden days, absolutely.
beloved Call of Cthulhu. Take me
Yes.
back to the moment where the idea hit you. Where were you and what were you doing, if you recall it?
The idea of the game Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, yes,
Okay, so I was in college, and I was playing the game RuneQuest. It had replaced Dungeons and Dragons for us. Okay, and my friend said we should do. I said I want to put together a horror game, and we called it American Gothic. So we put together the game, and it wasn't anything like RuneQuest. And we'd worked on this game and did things with it, and then after playing RuneQuest, I started having contact with Greg Stafford, president of Chaosium, and I published a book called The Gateway Bestiary with him, which had a whole bunch of new monsters for RuneQuest. And one of the chapters had Lovecraft monsters. As far as I know, that's the first appearance of Lovecraft creatures in a game setting, and that would have been 1980 or 1979. So that was the incipients. So then I felt that I had some karma with Greg. So I said, Greg, I've got this great idea. I want to do a expansion to RuneQuest where you adventure in Lovecraft's dreamlands, because that's kind of a fantasy setting.
huh,
Lovecraft's dream, there's swords and magic and stuff.
yeah.
And he said, no, we don't want to do that because we already have a guy doing Lovecraft for modern times in a role-playing game. And I said, wow, you do? Can I help? Can I see it? Can I make suggestions? And then he called back and he said, well, actually, we don't like the way the guy's going on this. So why don't you do the whole thing yourself? And I was like, so I had American Gothic all ready to go, but I discarded the game system of it because Chaosium wanted me to use their basic role-playing system with the percentile dice. So I converted that over, and the last remaining trace of American Gothic is, if you've played Call of Cthulhu, you've probably played the scenario called The Haunted House, where there's the creepy old undead guy in the basement,
Yes.
and the bed moves around, knocks you out the window, all that stuff. That was a scenario I made for American Gothic, and that's the first scenario ever played for Call of Cthulhu. And I spent a year typing it up on an old Selectric typewriter. We didn't have computers, right? And working it out and trying to figure out things. The two hardest parts were, what do I do about Lovecraft has this thing in his stories where people go crazy when they see the monsters. Do I want to have that? And I did, it turned out. And the other was, how do I show the monsters? They're like these huge unkillable things. Um, so here's a fun story from it. So I've got my game, and I just written up these sanity rules where my idea was that, well, if you see a monster and it's really scary, you might go insane or lose sanity or take some kind of shock to your system.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought in my head, I thought this would be another weapon of the monsters. Like they could bite you and they could cast spells and they could make you go crazy. So it's just another ability of monsters. Okay.
Okay.
But when I had the players and we were playing the haunting scenario where there's the undead in the basement, and they had found this spell that said summon malign thing from beyond. It was actually a dimensional shambler, but they didn't know that. They thought it would summon the thing that was haunting the house. So they went downstairs and they set up the ritual, and I was trying to make it creepy for them. And this is the very first time anyone had ever used the sanity rules. They knew about them, but they hadn't used them. And I said, okay, this door opens in space and this clawed hand comes out. And then the players astounded me. One of them said, I run away. Another one said, I'm covering my eyes. Another said, I'm going to the corner, turning my back to it. And I just like, wow, they're acting like they're afraid. I'm not saying the players were afraid, but the characters acted afraid. And I thought, in D&D, you would never cover your eyes when a monster's coming in the room. You have to know what's going on. But in Call of Cthulhu, because of the sanity rules, they were afraid to look at the monster. And I said, and I was smart enough to realize this is something I got to keep. This is a really good thing in the game. And even though I didn't realize that's what it would lead to, um, and that's kind of where this whole sanity thing came from. And I think it's the strongest element of the game because it gives the game master so much, another great tool to work with. Well, if you do that, it's going to be really scary. And they're like, oh yeah, I lose sanity. I don't want to do that. And it's been proven really effective.
How did the very first play test go? The real
Well, the
one.
very first playtest didn't have sanity yet. They were going through the haunted house, and there were the scary moving beds and stuff, and everyone was trying to figure out the mystery. And then they found the magic book that had the spell. So we're going to cast the spell. That might be the monster. So then I said, you got to do it at midnight. So the next night they go down there. Then that next day is when I had sanity. I said, I got these sanity rules. If you see something scary, you can lose sanity. And so I really only had one test before the sanity rules. But man, that was the sanity rules really opened my eyes. I said, this is going to be nothing like D&D. And the other thing is, when I'm designing this game, Call of Cthulhu, I thought to myself, it's going to be modern times. The characters are going to be weaker than any possible monster, right? Because if you see a monster movie, there's like a werewolf or something. Humans can't just go and fight the werewolf. He's like stronger than any person. So you have to like build up to it to figure something out. So I can't have an adventure that's fighting, going along, fighting like you do in D&D. I need something else to take the place of combat, to give the players something to do. And so what I came up with, as you know, is the mystery exploration,
Investigation.
the investigation. And that gave you the thing to do instead of combat. And that proved really compelling. And it has made Call of Cthulhu so successful because if you look at any other role-playing game, the cycle is I kill a bad guy, I get treasure, I level up. I kill a bigger bad guy, I get treasure, I level up. I kill a bigger, and that's the cycle. And the cycle repeats, and it's a pretty compelling cycle, which is why it's so popular. But Call of Cthulhu is totally contrarian. That's not the cycle in Call of Cthulhu. If the monster is a terrifying thing you're trying to avoid. If you get treasure, it's a moldy old book that drives you crazy by looking at the pictures. Like everyone fights to not be the one to check out the treasure, right? And your characters don't actually get that much. They do get better a little with adventures, but they also get worse because they go more insane and they get curses accumulated. And so it's very different from, the big boss fight in Call of Cthulhu is usually something like pouring concrete into the old well so it can't get out again. It's not actually a fight, right?
No,
So
not really.
if there is a fight, it's you driving away in your car with something flapping behind you trying to catch you. So the thing is, though, if you want the regular role-playing experience with kill, level up, kill, you can play literally every other role-playing game. But if you want something very different, there's only Call of Cthulhu.
You're considered the Lovecraft expert in gaming, um, even in my opinion. What does everyone get wrong about cosmic horror, in your opinion?
What does everyone get wrong?
Hmm.
Okay, here's what they get wrong. I'm not saying everyone does it, but it's a common thing. Conventional horror, what you have is you have people sitting in the real world. They're in their office like you are, or like I am. Okay? And everything's normal. And then there's some kind of horrible intrusion. There's a serial killer, or there's an alien, or there's a ghost, or there's something unnatural and terrifying. And then it does its work and you deal with it. Then at the end of the story, you're back in the real world. Okay, the intrusion has left or it's gone somewhere else and you're back where you are. What Lovecraft did was you start in the real world and then there's the intrusion and you learn because of the intrusion, that there is no real world. It was all a lie. And you can't go back to it. You find out that everything humanity has done for its whole existence is just a little veneer of scum on the surface of reality, and Cthulhu is going to come back and wipe it out, and there's going to be nothing left forever. And if humanity knows that, we'd go insane in terror. So we can't let them know. Or we find out that the old ones are ready to come through the bubble, or that I have deep one blood. I can't go back to my home.
In the best case, you are one of the in the best case, you are one of the monsters.
You're one of the monsters, right? And in fact,
Yay.
one of the things I've done in Call of Cthulhu is that if I had is that sometimes you have the sanity loss that accumulates. Well, if I will have a person who like has somehow found out that he has ties to deep ones or ghouls, and the more insane they go, the more they become like a deep one or ghoul, and they know that okay, when I go fully insane, I'm going to be a ghoul. That's the fate, or a deep one, right? So Lovecraft leaves you in the horrible new universe, and where your eyes have been opened and you know the reality, and that's what they don't see. They think he's just a lot of people think he's just a bigger, more tentacled monster, but he's not. He's a total overturning of the natural order.
Was there a moment when you realized that Call of Cthulhu had become bigger than you? More than a game.
So it's not one thing. It's a lot of little moments. It's when I'm at a convention and I've had thousands of people tell me I read Lovecraft because I played Call of Cthulhu and I loved it. And I realized that I thought Call of Cthulhu was going to be played by a couple thousand Lovecraft fans. I mean, there weren't many of us, and then it would vanish away, and I'd be proud I'd done it, but it would be a tiny thing. But instead, it spread Lovecraft. It made Lovecraft huge. Lovecraft in 1980 was very obscure. Every single person I knew who'd heard of Lovecraft had heard about him because I had told them. He just wasn't famous. You talk about Lovecraft, they're like, who? No, I never heard of that guy. There was a few movies that kind of put his name in tiny credits and were very bad. But when Cthulhu came out, I started going through the gaming community, and even people who didn't play Call of Cthulhu knew about Call of Cthulhu.
Mm-hmm.
That was that game with the really scary monsters and the players that go crazy and the cosmic horror. And maybe I'll play it someday. And but for right now we're still sticking to D&D. But one day. So also in the late another thing. So I see people that learned about Lovecraft because of me. I found out in the late 80s that the personnel at TSR that makes Dungeons and Dragons, they told me that no one at TSR played Dungeons and Dragons. They only played Call of Cthulhu. So I said, okay, I've kind of taken over the enemy, And then when and then then I got an award in the 90s for like greatness in Lovecraft or something. It was a little picture thing of Lovecraft, and they said they gave the first two awards. One was to me, and one was to Stuart Gordon, because Stuart Gordon did the movie Reanimator in 1985. Okay.
Yeah.
And they said, so Reanimator made Lovecraft kind of well known among film nerds. So they said what happened is that you have the film nerds watching the monster movies about Lovecraft, and then you have the gaming nerds learning about Lovecraft through my game, and together that made Lovecraft a meme. So now I have, there's this kind of thing. This is insane. No one would have been Call of Cthulhu back in the day. I never buy these things. They're always given to me by someone. They said, oh, Sandy, look at this cool Cthulhu thing. So Lovecraft has Lovecraft. Cthulhu is a meme. People make jokes about him. They make crappy Japanese animes about him, and he's everywhere, and all of that got its start. I mean, when I and my wife were out at a convention or something, and we see some Lovecraft thing, Wendy says, "That's there because of you, Sandy," and I go, "That's true. That's there because of me." And seeing how it's grown amazes me. Here's another thing. So I worked on Doom, right? I worked on Quake.
It's the next question.
I actually worked on Civilization, and I worked on the Age of Empire series.
Oh.
Okay, all the Age of Empire series, Halo Wars, Age of Mythology, Age of Mystery, and these games sold millions of copies around the world, right? Objectively, they sold much more copies than Call of Cthulhu. But when I'm invited to a convention in Italy or Germany or Japan or Australia, it's never for Doom or Age of Empires. It's always Call of Cthulhu because that's the game people love. The other things are just games that they play, but they love Call of Cthulhu. So
After 40 years of interviews, is there any secret about Call of Cthulhu have you ever never told anyone?
I'm not sure there is because I have tried to be open and tell everyone the stuff that we did. I try to come up with cool secrets for the games and the scenarios. I'll tell you this. Okay, here's the thing: Call of Cthulhu is the founder of my house's wealth and prosperity. Cthulhu is our guy. So I love Cthulhu as much as any woman I've ever known. It's like Cthulhu is so important to me, what he's done. I know he's a terrified monster that's going to kill everyone, but man alive, it has taken on a life of its own. Um, when I first read Lovecraft, I was 8 years old, and I did not fully understand it, but it was like nothing I'd ever seen. It really impressed me. And when I read the story Call of Cthulhu at the age of 9, I had an experience that's really hard to get today because I didn't know what a Cthulhu was. I read the whole story. I didn't know how big he was. I didn't know what he was. Then at the end, when he comes out and he's the Titanic Mountain, I was just amazed. So that's a hard experience to have now, but that's what it was for me, to be just blown away by this stuff that I never considered.
You went from Call of Cthulhu, like you were saying before, to designing levels for Doom, Quake, and Age of Empires. Um,
Yes.
Video games that I loved and I played for many hours in my youth, especially the first ones, Doom and Quake. How did or did cosmic horror influence those games?
Well, cosmic horror and role playing influenced it because, well, fundamentally, Doom is a cosmic horror game because it's about another realm, another universe impinging on our own, and there's signs of it. Now, it's hell, not Lovecraftian, but there's things that show it. They're like if you play the first level, you're playing the game and you're going along the level and you got your gun and there's creepy monsters and you see a big inverted cross like a devil's skull. Really, it's a St. Peter's cross, but everyone associates it with the devil, the upside down cross. And it's like, oh, I'm creeped out. Or we put the scary uh, uh, sculptures on the walls of dead demons and demonic faces. All that to make the place feel creepy. You hear the sounds of the demons in the halls. There's lighting changes to go up and down. I tried as hard as so I'm trying to make it scary in a regular scary way. Then I'm trying to have ideas that um, of the cosmic thing that something's coming through. And this is done by a lot of things. The skybox doesn't look like Earth; it's like red and scary. I try to make it. And as you go through Doom, if you play the first level, the first uh, Doom 1, then you know that as you go through and you get into hell, it becomes more and more crazy and disjointed and insane. And I did all the levels for episode 2 and episode 3 of Doom 1, and I did 2 of the levels in episode 1, but just 2 of them. There's some John Romero. And then in Doom 2, I did most of the levels. I did 17 out of the 32. So only barely more than half, but still, more than half. So I tried to make the levels feel like you were a regular person going into this other dreadful realm of horror, where things would jump out at you. You'd be going through a dark hall with pillars, and a cacodemon would float around you and scare you. And then I used role playing tricks that I got from playing, Dungeons and Dragons and Call of Cthulhu. For one of my classic tricks that you've probably fallen for is you go into a room that's empty and there's like something really valuable on a pillar in the middle of the room and there's a spotlight on it. And if you go pick up that thing, demons are going to teleport in and get you, but you do it anyway. And then the demons teleport in, and it's like, and everyone looks at that and they go, "Oh no, the demons are going to come when I go pick that thing up." So that was a a very gamey, artificial thing I did, but it was super fun.
Back to Call of Cthulhu. Is there
Yes, yes.
any eighth edition on the run
Well, currently the
in the
head of
next future?
Chaosium's the head of Chaosium's development of Call of Cthulhu is the guy that wrote the seventh edition. So I think he's pretty happy with that.
Hmm.
And what they've said they want to do is, well, of course they do scenarios in any era. They mostly do 1920s. Okay, and I never really played in the 1920s. Actually, you asked me a secret about Call of Cthulhu that I never told you, and here's something that isn't well known. Okay, so when I was doing Call of Cthulhu back in the day, most people thought Lovecraft was a terrible hack. Okay, a bad writer. They hadn't read him. They just thought this because how could he be important if he wrote in the 1930s and 40s? So Chaosium, without reading Lovecraft, thought he was a hack. They weren't impressed by Lovecraft. They hired me to write the book because they knew I loved Lovecraft, and they knew that if they did it, it would be all snarky and contemptuous, and it wouldn't be appealing to the fans. They were smart enough to know they shouldn't write it. They should let me do it. But they did have to have something for them to kind of be excited about in the game so they could do a good job supporting it. And what they came up with is the 1920s. They said, hey, the 1920s are cool. There's flappers, there's prohibition, there's gangsters, there's cool old Model T cars. We'll focus on the 1920s background, and that's what we'll provide. And that's why they said it in the 20s. I never really played it in the 20s. I mean, I would play it in the 20s, but I didn't focus on the quaint 20s stuff. I just said, well, the 1920s have cars and they have telephones and they have guns. So I'll just run it like a modern game. Just different looking cars, guns, and guns. And so they would they focus on the 20s. I focus on modern era. So when I'm doing my current Call of Cthulhu stuff, okay,
Mhm.
I almost never run in the 20s. It's always modern era or some specific time period I might do. Like I have a game I run which is set 500 years from now in the future, where people go into space in a spaceship and there's Lovecraftian things, you know. So Big C is modern times, and Chaosium has said they want me to do the modern times books, and they'll stick with 1920s. So that's fine with me. I think the modern times have the advantage that it's easier to get people into the mindset of it being scary. They don't have like if you're in the 20s, there's like this you have to get through everything's quaint and old fashioned before you can get into the and it's scary.
Mhm.
Also, the 20s is a little different now because when I was doing it in 1980, the 20s were like only about 50 years ago. There's a lot of people alive who'd been alive in the 20s. Now the 20s are
Not
100 years ago.
anymore.
Yeah. Now no one remembers the 20s. So if I'd done Cthulhu now, I guess they'd have to have it set in the 1980s or 1970s, which is even crazier. But
Sadly.
yeah, but the thing is, Lovecraft didn't write in the 20s. I mean, he did physically write in the 20s, but he wasn't trying to write quaint slices of life in the 20s. He was doing it in cutting edge science. He had air, 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 airplane exploration of the Antarctic. He had submarines. He had ultraviolet rays. He had the discovery of Pluto. He was doing the most advanced stuff he could. And so I'm trying to follow in his footsteps.
I've heard that regarding the Cthulhu mythology, um, the writer Dave Morris, the writer of Libro Games, is writing right now Whisper Beyond the Stars, I think. That is Cthulhu in the modern times. And because Lovecraft meant to write about Cthulhu in the
Yeah.
in its time, not in the past, not in the
Right, exactly. Well, sure, that's all we did. When I was at Chaosium, one of the last things I did was Cthulhu now,
exactly.
and so I want Cthulhu to be scary. And the modern times where we live today, this is a really scary time.
Yeah.
People say, well, we have guns. I said, well, sure, they had guns in the 20s, and plus the cultists have guns. and they're probably better organized than the investigators. And they're like, we have cell phones. I said, yes, you do. And cell phone is such a great way to introduce horror into your life. Like the ghosts can call you on your phone. I have a whole scenario called A Voice on the Phone, where Seth Agua contacts you over your phone and is doing messing with your head. One author, not me sadly, came up with the idea that one of Nyarlathotep's 1,000 forms is a computer virus. So you can do the phones and the internet and all these connected things we have, they go two ways, and they let the things come into our lives, and give us horror beyond comprehension, or they can.
Sandy, in Italy, you have a vast public for Call of Cthulhu
Oh,
and all your
awesome.
work. Why do you think your work, and especially Call of Cthulhu, resonates so deeply with Italian culture specifically?
Well, this is something that you'd be more of an expert on than me. uh, I know that in France they had an early translation of Lovecraft that was really good, so they kind of got into it. I think Germany likes me because they have their own horrors in their pasts they have to deal with. When I was in Italy for my one trip, the Italians that were putting on a live action game of Lovecraft, and they were all dressed in like suits from the 1930s. They had a fascist policeman, and people in different outfits. They had a dance. Then they had a guy come in this giant fungi from Yuggoth, electronically operating. I couldn't believe how much effort they put in this thing. I was blown away. And I can only assume, what I think it might be? And you correct me if I'm wrong. So during the 60s, 70s, and 80s, Italy made a lot of great horror movies.
Yeah,
Italy was a real base for that kind of horror.
yeah.
And some of my favorite horror movie directors of all time, actually my very favorite, Mario Bava, is
Mario
Italian.
Bava, Dario Argento, yes, yes.
Yeah, and if you look at his movie Planet of the Vampires, Operacion Paura, I think it's called.
Yeah.
That is very Lovecraftian. That's straight out of Lovecraft. And so I think that maybe your movies help prepare you for Lovecraft. Is that plausible?
I have another theory, but
Okay.
yours is also plausible. Italy is built on layers, literally. You have Roman ruins under medieval churches, under modern
Yes,
buildings,
you can
and
see the past.
you live with the past
Yeah,
pressing up through the present, and that's very Lovecraftian. But
it
more than
is.
that, Italians understand tragedy as art, and your operas don't have happy endings, and your literature celebrates beautiful failures. Dante's Inferno isn't about escaping hell, it's about witnessing it. Americans, on the other side, play, I think, Call of Cthulhu to win, despite the odds. Italians play, play to experience the beautiful
Uh,
horror of cosmic insignificance.
I
And
think that sounds reasonable. You do have, like, Lovecraft did his best to show that there was ancient things in America, but they're not as ancient as Italy. Even if you have houses that are from the 1600s or the 1700s, I mean, Italy's got us beat all hollow in terms of ancient stuff. Um,
I
but yeah.
remember, I remember at years ago at Luca Comics,
Mhm.
Luca Games, an Italian keeper ran Masks of Nyarlathotep, where every player died in the end. They knew they would die going in, but they
Uh-huh.
spent 6 hours crafting elaborate death themes. One player wrote an actual sonnet as his character's final words. That's
That is so Italian.
yes, yes, so Italian.
That
Americans'
maybe.
approach is how do we beat Cthulhu? Other side, the Italian approach is how do we make our destruction meaningful, beautiful? So that's my idea.
That
Stan,
could that could be it. That makes sense. The other countries I'm very big in. Call of Cthulhu is bigger than D&D in Spain and Italy.
Hmm.
And I think in Spain we're bigger because the Wizards of the Coast kind of screwed the pooch on their initial attempt to penetrate the Spanish market. They just bungled it, and Chaosium didn't. But in in Japan, I think the reason that Lovecraft is so popular, much bigger there than Call of Cthulhu, than D&D, is because the wizards and castles and dragons and knights isn't really part of their cultural heritage. But monsters and tentacles and aliens, yeah, that's fine for Japan, you
Hmm.
know. So actually, Call of Cthulhu is uh, is huge in Japan, and 70% of the players are women.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
I think because in America, in order to like Dungeons and Dragons is very testosterone based, and so if you're a woman and you want to role play, first you have to get through Dungeons and Dragons, which is 90% men, and then once you get through that, you can find Call of Cthulhu, which usually has more women than Dungeons and Dragons. Usually, Call of Cthulhu in America is 25-30% women. Um, but in Japan, it's 70% because they don't have the barrier of having to get through Dungeons and Dragons to play Call of Cthulhu. They just go right to Call of Cthulhu. And Call of Cthulhu was so big in Japan, it's actually bigger than the rest of the world combined,
Hmm.
which is a lot because we're not obscure, which means the average player of Call of Cthulhu is an 18 to 35-year-old Japanese woman.
Again, very interesting. Sandy, where is horror gaming going in the next 10 years, in your opinion?
Well, Lovecraft is now public domain, so I've seen a lot of people try to come up with Lovecraftian games to compete with Call of Cthulhu. None of them seem to have reached the same level. I think they don't have the history and the prowess and the huge backlog of games, and they usually don't have the sanity rolls. A lot of these other Cthulhu games are more based on the classic, hey, let's kill the monster, level up, kill another monster, level up, which as I said, if you wanted to play that, you don't need to play a Lovecraft game, you know. Um, but so I think Call of Cthulhu will still stay preeminent, but there'll be more and more little knockoffs of it. I think that um, computer games are getting better at showing horror. Sadly, the Call of Cthulhu role playing game on computers, I don't think was that great. It was it was okay, but we're gonna get better and better. I mean, Five Nights at Freddy's was a pretty good horror game, you know, and I think we're going to see more. What I'd really like to see is someday have some kind of Lovecraftian MMO where everyone is characters in this universe where there's creepy things going on and you form teams to go investigate. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but you know, we can all have dreams, right?
Yeah. Where do you see Petersen games, let's say, in 5 years?
Ice Petersen games. Well, right now we are trying to claw our way back from almost being on the brink. We almost went out of business in 2022. We're trying to get back. We're resolving our issues. We're trying to get our sales back up, and the goal is to produce all of the things that we promised on Kickstarter.
Hmm.
We've done it for Cthulhu Wars. We've partially done it for hyperspace. We have more to do. The next thing after hyperspace is going to be Planet Apocalypse, then Dinosaur 44, and then eventually we'll have all of our promises fulfilled. That's the goal
Hmm.
that I want to do. Um, and I have all these games. I've finished games: Death Dealer, Hyperspace, the role playing game, Star Captain, the space combat game, Terror Pass, Big C, all these things which are finished, ready to go. We just need to do them. If you know anyone who's interested in investing, let me know. But because we will certainly partner with anyone.
Is there any dream collaboration happening with
What?
some? Is there any dream collaborations happening?
Yeah,
with
I'd love to do
someone.
something with Alex de la Iglesia, the Spanish director.
Mm.
He did Day of the Beast, Witching and Bitching, and the 30 Coins TV show, which had a lot of Lovecraftian elements. So he's also a huge Call of Cthulhu fan, and I've met him personally. And he actually wrote a Call of Cthulhu adventure in Spanish, which you can buy and play in Spain. So I would love doing something with him someday. Um, and It'd be too much to hope that I get to do something with, say, Dario Argento. I think he's kind of past his peak now anyway, I guess. But maybe Michael Soavi could do something. He's a great director.
Mm.
You
And
know who I'm talking about.
okay. Any digital project?
I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Michael Soavi. He did The Church, the La Seta, The Cemetery Man.
Soavi. Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes, yes.
yeah, I love his. I
Is
love his stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
he started making his movies just when Italian cinema kind of hit a wall and collapsed for a while, But
yeah.
he was really good.
It's a disciple of Dario Argento. It's one of
Yes,
my
he is.
favorite directors. Yes, yes, Michele
Yeah, and his
Soavi.
movie, The Church and La Seta were very Lovecraftian.
Yeah, 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 yeah. The church, there was a demon or the devil in the basement of a church.
Yes,
And La Setta, I don't remember
has
well.
a cult.
Yes, yes, yes. But I don't remember who is the monster. Which is the monster?
Well, it's mostly the cult. At the very end, you find out they're worshiping these weird spider creatures that
Oh, oh. I have to rewatch it. Sure. While the church, I watched it at least 2 or 3 times.
Well, look, in the church, when the medieval machines kick in and the whole church starts changing shape like a
Yes, yes, yes,
transformer,
yes.
and the sand is pouring out of the kangs and moving up, that is really something. It's
Yeah.
an amazing sequence.
And the main character is the daughter of Dario Argento, Asia Argento, one of his first appearance in the movies. I love that film so much. Okay, any digital project in the next future? Only
Well,
digital?
I mean, you probably know that I worked on Whisperer in Darkness,
Hmm.
the movie by HPLHS, which is a very close version of Lovecraft's story. Um, so I did that, and I thought it came out really well. And I mean, most of the effort is HPLHS, not me. Not I just put money in. But what happened is they sold all their copies to a Canadian distribution company, who then sold their copies, and before they paid the society, they went bankrupt. So like all the money was gone. So the movie's still out there. You can see it on Amazon Prime. You can see it on Tubi. I think it might be on Netflix. You can buy DVDs of it, but it's only slowly making back its money. If I was going to do another digital project, it would either be with them again, or maybe with if I can ever get Alex de la Iglesia to contact me again, it would be with him because he's great.
Okay, Sandy, that was absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for your
You're
time
very welcome.
and for
Thank you for
sharing.
the experience.
Thank you so much for sharing such amazing stories and insights.
Well, keep my email if you find a convention in
Surely,
Italy that might want to invite me, because
surely.
I'd love to
Okay,
go again.
okay, okay. And I'll send all the links. I'll send you the link of the video once it's
Oh,
edited
excellent.
and
I'll put
published.
it up on. I'll promote it as best I can.
Okay. And thank you again for making history with us today. And
Okay.
I hope you will come again and talk about
Me too.
some the new products the new games you
Uh-huh.
will be publishing in the future. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.